You're welcome back to Newsbeat. This is live from the Akra studio, and we're live also on Facebook's MetroTV Ghana. My name is Annie Fampo. From the first story, Lands and Natural Minister Jinapor has denied allegations of state capture by the MPP government at a press conference in Accra. Today, the minister said the allegations that the government has either sold or allocated public lands to individuals were fueled by political considerations, describing them as false and baseless.
Granted some of these public lands to private entities for various developmental purposes. Unfortunately, some people have packaged some of these lands, which were granted to private developers decades ago, and presented them as evidence of what they have termed, quote, state capture, end quote. The ministry has had to issue press statements to correct some of these misinformations. However, given that this platform has a wider reach and audience, it is important to reiterate some of these issues, which we have already issued statements on, amongst others. Another allegation that has been made as evidence of state capture by the Akufo-Addo government is the Parks and Gardens land at Cantonments. This land was acquired in 1894 and granted to the predecessor of the Department of Parks and Gardens in 1952. The land was, however, leased to a company named Wuntirim Company Limited on 29 November 2016, long before the current government came to power. And those who were in power when the land was sold in 2016 have turned around to falsely accuse the Akufo-Addo government of selling this parcel of land. Indeed, the lease was made pursuant to a request from the then Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development, dated 16th August 2012, under the hand of its then Deputy Minister, Honorable Elvis Afriye Ankara, to sell 2 acres of the land, quote, to enable the Parks and Gardens raise the needed funding to resource itself, end quote. According to the then Deputy Minister, he stated further, and I quote, proceeds from the sale shall be used to provide Parks and Gardens with a new office, staff bars, some tractors, water tankers, and the needed hand tools it is currently in dire need of to restructure and reposition itself as a viable government agency, end quote.
All right, so that's the Lands and Natural Resources Minister touching on some of the issues that have come up on land. So environmental group Eco-Conscious Citizens is calling on relevant authorities to take an immediate action to remove all illegal structures around the estuary of the KpeshieLagoon here in Accra. Addressing the media after an inspection tour, founder of the group, Awula Serwah, asserted that failure to do so poses potential hazard to both humans and environment. All right, apologies for the brief break. Let's go into the phone lines and speak with Awula Serwah on the issue that the minister has touched on. Earlier on, we gave you some videos of how he explained the land situation with some of the matters that have come within the media. Awula, thank you for your time. You're welcome to Newsbeat. Good afternoon. Hello, Madam Serwah, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Right, thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Right, you're welcome to Newsbeat. So, the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources has had the opportunity to meet the press today and, made mention of some of these issues, trying to clarify lease agreements between certain families that has created the today situation. Have you been able to listen to some of his explanations, and how do you respond to them?
Well, all I can say is that the Parks and Gardens land was allocated for a horticultural nursery. So any thing that is deviating from it is now void. It was acquired for a horticultural nursery. So you cannot build apartment blocks. In 2019, the then Ministry of Local Government tried to build a multi-purpose office building on Parks and Gardens land. And this was resisted successfully. Then recently, there's been another attempt by estate developers. And our position is absolutely consistent. You cannot build on Parks and Gardens land because the area was acquired for a horticultural nursery. So it can only be used for horticultural purposes. And in fact, there was an attempt to rezone the area. And the Land Use and Spatial Planning Authority made it absolutely clear that this could not be done because the area should be left as a horticultural nursery. So we don't care whether it's NPP, NDC, all we are interested in is in the integrity of the land, which should be used as a green space. Too many of our parks have already been built upon, and the few that are remaining, we have to maintain. And remember, Cabinet has passed EI 144, declassifying parts of Achimota Forest. Is this present administration that has done that? And we are saying that it's not in the best interest of Accra or Ghanaians to remove the lungs of Accra, the last remaining forest reserve in Accra. How do you declassify parts of it? So we are only interested in the environment and the well-being of Ghanaians.
So largely, I think the minister, listening to him, was more focused on allegations and accusations against government officials, being engaged in what is described as state capture. It wasn't so much of your concern of the environmental protection. So, for example, the declassification of part of Achimota Forest was not so much hammered on as he took his time to address some of the matters that have come up. And so I'm not sure, how your outfit is taking your time to let him understand or let government understand that this is what you're concerned about, so we address it head on.
Government is perfectly aware of what our concerns are. But what we are doing right now is throwing a lot of red herrings. Government is perfectly aware that if you are interested in the green spaces, if you are interested in greening Ghana, you do not go and be complicit or turn a blind eye to attempt to appropriate parts of Parks and Gardens land. And if you are aware, we've asked for an audit of all Parks and Gardens lands in Accra. In Wa, for instance, a petrol station was being built on parts of Parks and Gardens land, which needs to be removed. And the government is perfectly aware of the fact that we have been campaigning, not just eco-conscious citizens, so many other reputable organizations campaigning against the declassification of portions of Achimota Forest, because as I said, it's the last remaining forest reserve in Accra, the lungs of Accra, and forests have such an important role to play. Government is perfectly aware that we are campaigning against LI 2462, which allows for mining in forest reserves, including globally significant biodiversity areas. And we're in the decade of ecosystem restoration. So government is perfectly aware and maybe sidestepping these questions because you have no response to this. No government interested in the environment will pass LI 2462. Actually, it was passed by Parliament, but brought by the executive, or pass EI 144, which was passed by Cabinet. So what is happening right now is that we are sidestepping the questions. We are not interested per se in state capture, unless it's state capture of green spaces. That's what we are interested in a clean and green and serene environment. So that's what we are focusing on, not on red herring.
So maybe from your angle, you see that probably government is engaging in selectivity in what it wants to address and what it decides to leave out?
Activity. We couldn't talk about EI 144 because it knows that it's a perverse executive instrument. It knows that. We've destroyed our forests with illegal mining and all sorts of things. The president, you recall, 5 years ago, even put his presidency on the line. 5 years later, it's even worse than before that. So they sidestepped that. They haven't given any response to EI 144. They haven't mentioned LI 2462, which is so perverse that it allows for mining and logging in globally significant biodiversity areas with written approval from the president. So they are sidestepping the important issues. Regarding parks and gardens, we are saying that not 1 inch of parks and gardens land should be used to advance the concrete jungle. It should be kept for the purposes for which it was acquired as a green space. So we're not interested in all these stories that divert attention from the true facts.
Right. Have you had the opportunity to also go through laws that will permit us to mine in forest reserves, which of course the CEO of Minerals Commission has indicated that he thinks that there's nothing wrong with it?
Well, is anybody who thinks there's nothing wrong with destroying our forest reserves? I'm very sorry. But I mean, one can only say that that person has no clue, no idea about the importance of forest reserves. You know, for example, take Awula Forest Reserve. 3 rivers take their source from the river. So by mining there, you potentially poison the source of water to over 5 million Ghanaians. As we speak, the Draw River Forest Reserve is being destroyed, a beautiful forest reserve, and the waters are being polluted or about to be polluted because I've seen pictures of an excavator there. So anybody who cares about the people of Ghana, remember in the galamsey areas, there's an increase in kidney disease. There are maternal deaths. There are deformities because of the irresponsible way in which mining is being conducted. So if anybody just thinks about mining without thinking about the consequences, the person is not interested in the welfare of Ghanaians. I don't want to use any stronger words. Mining should not be done in forest reserves. There's a reason why they're called forest reserves. There's a reason why they're called forest reserves. Recently, we heard of the regional minister planting trees in Dodowa Forest, which has been destroyed. We commend it, but we're also saying that whilst you are trying to restore Dodowa Forest, why is the government intent on destroying parts of Achimota Forest? Why is it intent of mining bauxite in Akwa Forest Reserve when it knows that there are endangered plants and animal species which will probably die with the mining of bauxite because of the dust. And they know that the source of water of over 5 million people will be polluted. I mean, what other thing can one say apart from the fact that we are not interested in the welfare of people? Mining alone is not what is going to save Ghana. There's also the green economy. And if you mine and in the process, half the population is suffering from kidney disease, what have you achieved?
Right. Awula Serwah, who is a founder for Eco-Conscious Citizens, speaking to us on the land situation and obviously not satisfied with responses coming from the Lands and Natural Resources Minister. Now, the 7